Hey, I'm John Reese III. I'm the founder of Garage Gym Life. Today I'm going to do a first impressions review of the Living.Fit Cerakote Barbell. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's dive in and see what's up with this bar. So at first glance, I like this bar. I've had it for about 24 hours, which isn't a ton of time to train with it. So this isn't going to be an exhaustive review, just my first impressions of the packaging, the spin on the sleeve, the knurling, and how it performed during the training session. However, I must say, I love it when bars show up in time for the workout I'm mostly going to use it for. So shout out to FedEx, because I plan to use this bar primarily for deadlifting and other pulling movements, and it showed up the day before my regularly planned deadlift session. Speaking of deadlifts, normally I tell you about the specs and other design features, then see how it performs in training. But this time, I've already got the pre-workout flowing through my veins. So I'm going to train with this thing first, and then tell you what I think of it and the specs and all that after I'm done training. So talk amongst yourselves, and I'll be back in a minute. Or more than that, but you know what I'm saying. I'll be back. So as you guys can tell, I worked up to 501.5 pounds. I had this number in my head when I started the training session because in most barbell reviews, you see the person reviewing the bar using extremely light weight. But in my experience, most of the time, if a barbell is going to misbehave, it's going to happen in the 500-pound neighborhood. So I must say that I was pleasantly surprised by how well this bar performed. There was a little bit of whip in the bar at 501, but not so much that it yanked me out of position. In fact, I can already tell you that this bar is going to perform well for what it is. Side note, my wife loved the way this bar felt in her hands when she was playing around with it when we were setting up the cameras to do this review, and she can't wait to actually train with it, which makes sense given that she trains for general fitness, because remember, this isn't a powerlifting bar, it's not a weightlifting bar, and it doesn't pretend to be. The Living.Fit Cerakote bar is a mixed use bar. At 28 millimeters in shaft diameter, this bar works fairly well for most pulling movements, and it'll probably be okay for light squatting and light benching. But if you're going to regularly do over 400 pounds in the squat or 300 pounds in the bench press, I would recommend getting a dedicated 29 millimeter powerlifting bar. In fact, let's talk about the specs now since I brought up the diameter. This bar is a mixed use barbell, as I said, and it's equipped with both bearings and 2 brass bushings on either side of the shaft to make sure that it spins fairly smoothly. It has 2 sets of rings in compliance with International Powerlifting Federation and International Weightlifting Federation specs. And I've already mentioned that this bar is a 28mm barbell, which is also within IPF and IWF specifications. This barbell has a listed tensile strength of 200 kpsi and is rated at a load capacity of 1,500 pounds. The Cerakote barbell is guaranteed to be 20 kilograms with no more than plus or minus 1% variance, or Living.Fit guarantees they'll replace the barbell. More on that in a minute. The Cerakote barbell comes with a lifetime warranty covering any material, functional, or workmanship defects throughout the product's lifespan. This warranty does not cover basic barbell maintenance, but as long as you maintain your bar, if the spin starts to be reduced, for example, you can probably submit the bar for replacement according to the Living.Fit website. Let's talk about the stuff I liked. I really liked that I didn't have to chalk my hands for my warm-up sets. The knurling isn't super aggressive because this bar is designed to be used for a variety of quick and slow lifts, but I was able to pull 300 pounds double overhand with 0 chalk on my hands, which isn't bad. In fact, I was actually sweating a little bit because I ran a mile on the treadmill before lifting, but I was able to use the bar just fine with just wiping my hands off of my hoodie before jumping into deadlifts. The barbell shaft is fairly thin compared to a dedicated power bar, but as I said, it wasn't super whippy, but it did seem to spin pretty well when I did a one-arm snatch. You know, for the culture. I haven't done any bench pressing with it yet because, as I mentioned, I've only had it for 24 hours, so I don't know how much this 28mm shaft is going to dig into my palm when I'm bench pressing, but I did do a bench press with it, just playing around after deadlifts, and I did notice a ton of discomfort in the palm of my hand.
Roy Jenkins.
You got this. You got this. Push. Press. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Stand up. Stand up.
By the way, we're going to blame that failure to lock out not on the fact that I haven't done a barbell bench press in several months. No, I'm much more creative than that. I'm blaming that failure to lock out on the fact that I hit one of the carabiners on my power rack with the sleeve of the barbell. That one right there. In any case, I'm going to assume that if all the weight of 134 pounds going into one palm didn't cause me problems, then it shouldn't be a problem when I bench press at least up to 270 pounds. Okay, let's talk about the cons. The packaging was not good. Not good at all. I typically prefer that barbells be shipped in a box with heavy-duty plastic end caps to protect the bar from damage. The Cerakote barbell came in just flimsy plastic, and while there wasn't any damage to the knurling, I did notice a few scratches on both of the sleeves. Speaking of those scratches, they seem to get worse during the training session. When I was loading the 4th set of 45 plates onto the bar, I noticed a lot more blemishes on the sleeves, including these square areas where the plates were sliding on and off the bar. This isn't a huge deal in terms of performance, but it is something to pay attention to, especially if you live in a humid climate, because that may be a potential area for rust to develop. The bar feels thin in my hands. Again, it is within International Powerlifting Federation specs, but it means that this bar is going to be a little whippier, and I'm definitely not inclined to do any squatting or benching with it for that reason. One final thing that is not necessarily a con, but it is something to think about, is that there won't be a total ton of resale value on this barbell. For one thing, you're starting out at $225, so there's not much room to go down and still be worth your time in terms of price. But also, that lifetime warranty only applies to the original purchaser, so it's not transferable to whoever might buy your barbell from you. Again, this is not a deal breaker, but it is something to keep in the back of your mind if you're planning on getting this barbell and then upgrading at some point in the future. But that's about it for cons. At a price point of under $225 before tax and shipping, this bar is a decent option if you're starting a home gym and you want a bar that you can use for most things. As always, I'm going to train with this bar for the next 3 months and see if anything else jumps out at me as far as stuff I like or stuff you need to watch out for. So drop a comment if there's something specific that you'd like for me to cover when I come back to do my 3-month follow-up review. And make sure that you subscribe to this channel and you have your notifications turned on so you don't miss it. And speaking of not missing good content, make sure you're tuning into this channel every Friday morning from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the Way Too Early for a Friday podcast. It's the only home gym morning show, and it's got the best, most interesting guests from around the home gym community. The weekly home gym dance party is always a hit, and we've got reactions to your home gym workout videos. See you there.